One false assumption that people often make about me is that I must have endless energy. And I can see how they would think that because I do a lot of things. I run Thriving Child Center and PCIT Experts, which is a seven-figure group practice, which is not easy to run in this economy, especially, and requires a lot of networking and marketing and business creation. So I'm very busy with that. I run a consulting practice where I teach other psychologists how to build their dream practices like I have. I also have 2 weekly podcasts, and I'm also the parent of 2 little kids. So I can see why people would have that illusion. And I might have that about someone else just doing that many things. The reality is that I do have a higher capacity for work than I think many people do. And this has always been true of me. And I think part of it is because, especially right now, the work I'm doing are things that I really enjoy. So building a practice is really fun. Consulting is really fun. I actually love recording my podcasts. So a lot of the things I'm doing are very aligned with what I want to do. So I am able to get a lot done. However, there are plenty of days where I am not functioning at full capacity. Either not quite where I normally would be, or sometimes significantly lower. And during those times, I struggle because I'm human. And so today, what I wanted to talk with you about is the framework I use for really assessing what I need on those low capacity days and figuring out how I want to move forward. And full disclosure, today is one of those days. So you're getting this information in real time. I hope it's helpful to you. When I notice that my energy is lower and that I don't feel excited about any of the things I'm supposed to do for work, I start trying to understand the actual limits to my capacity, to my true capability of doing work. Is this I physically, literally can do nothing sort of situation, which has happened before? Or is this more of I don't want to do anything. I hate my computer. All of these emails are stupid and I don't want to deal with them kind of day? Or somewhere in the middle. There's plenty of in the middle between those two things. I mean, the first example I can think of being truly incapacitated is when I had the flu last year. I was so sick. I could not get out of bed, physically could not. My office is in my house, and I remember thinking, I will never be able to get there. There's nothing I could do. If someone told me that my whole business was falling apart and everything was a disaster, the very most I could have accomplished was a text message to my office manager and to my clinic director saying, please do something about this. And that would have been the end of my ability. I was that sick. So that in my mind was a true no capacity situation. Maybe even lower would be if I were unconscious, right? There was no doing anything. There was nothing else to evaluate. I can't do anything. The point is moot. I will not be working. There are other times where I could be dealing with something else. Maybe I'm not feeling well, feeling bad. I'm sick, but I'm not to that degree. Or, maybe I'm dealing with grief around my mom who died a couple years ago, or other things are bothering me, or there's some current stressor going on that's really taking over. So it's affecting my capacity, definitely, but I'm still capable of doing some things. I could save the business. There's some tasks I could do. And then there's just this other part where you're just I just don't want to. I just wish I could go to the beach and not be at work. And that's I think a totally different place. So anyway, the first thing I do is truly ask myself, is this a true I can't? Is this I don't feel like it? Or where in the middle of this energy level am I realistically right now? Also understanding that can actually change throughout the day sometimes. Second thing I ask myself, what do I truly need to get done today? This is actually where I often use ChatGPT as a thought partner, or Claude. I'll say, I don't want to do anything today. Ask me some questions where I can figure out what I actually should do. Here are the things on my to-do list. If I only did 1 or 2 of them, what would those things be? And so I try to narrow down like what are the absolute most important things. Because sometimes you just really have to do something. For example, it was just the 10-year anniversary for Thriving Child Center, which is exciting, but also your DBA expires after 10 years. So I absolutely had to go on the website and make that name exist again, right? I had to file for my DBA. There's no not doing that. Or if your licensure is about to expire and you need a CEU, I'm sorry, you need the CEU. Or there's something really going wrong with the clinician, like you just have to like put out the fire. So which things in here are fires or tasks that are like really meaningful that I must accomplish right now? And if I have the capacity and I know what those tasks are, I will direct all of my energy to doing those things. It's very much a like, you just have to push through this and then you can stop. And depending upon how important those things are, changes the level of push through. One thing I sometimes find is if I start working on tasks, then I'm able to keep going. Sort of like if you can drag yourself to the gym when you don't want to, right? Once you get there, suddenly you're like, all I have to do is walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes and I'm done. And then you're like, well, now I'm feeling a little better. I think I can now do this weightlifting thing I was going to do. So sometimes just the action of like getting started doing something, the momentum can be really helpful. There are other times where it's like you do the most important thing and then you're done. The third question I ask myself, I think is a little more nuanced and interesting. So there are days where I truly just need to rest. What we've really run into is just exhaustion. Like I need a day off, a true day off where I'm not even attempting to work. And I just need to radically accept that this is not a work day. This is a rest day and I'm not going to do anything work related. And maybe I don't need that. Maybe instead of asking myself, what is the most important thing to do today? I have to ask myself, what's the most interesting thing I could do today? Because for me, I'm actually very interested in many, many, many of the things that I have to do in my practice or in my businesses in general. Like they're actually fun for me. But sometimes the most interesting thing and the most like important thing are not the same. So if I like am really interested in like designing something on Canva, then it's better to do that than to do nothing. Or like for today, like I love recording podcasts. I love talking to you and giving you ideas and sharing things that are going on. So for me, recording content is actually usually the high interest thing that I can do. So I don't really feel like doing anything. There's nothing extremely important where everything will collapse if I don't do it. So what am I doing right now? I'm recording this podcast episode for you because it interests me. And even as I do this right now in real time, I can actually feel my motivation to do other things going up because this feels good and I'm having fun. So obviously this framework does not work for every single person in the world. There are other things to consider. If you're noticing that your capacity is really low a lot, then it's time to start really thinking about your health, what other things need to change if you like the business you're running. Like starts getting complicated. But generally things are going well. Low capacity days happen to you sometimes. If you're like that, then I think that this framework might be a helpful one to consider the next time you're in one of those like kind of slumpy moments that I'm experiencing at this very moment today. But I hope you are having a high energy, fun day. I hope things are going well, and I will talk to you next time.